All right, welcome. So we're going to be talking about talking with families today. We're going to do a welcoming and our usual video and talking about breastfeeding fundamentals, community, how to build a community resource guide, and then the theoretical phases of parenting. And then we're going to do a reality check where we talk about what it looks like in your center. And then next steps in your center, where we kind of dig into the complicated portions of talking with families. And then the last 5 minutes will be our wrap up. And we do this video every time.
Is there a place where everyone, regardless of race, economic background, or gender, grows up with the opportunity for good health, a good education, and a good job? This place is not in our heads, but in our hands. It starts with a mother and a baby. Actually, it can start with all of us. It can start with you. When you support a woman's health long before she chooses to have a baby, and when she gets pregnant, you help her receive excellent prenatal care close to her home, where you explain why breastfeeding matters in a manner and language she understands. Before she gives birth, in a baby-friendly hospital you helped establish, where you help her breastfeed her baby right away, allowing her to bond with her baby, who breastfeeds well, and you're always there to help. When this mom and baby go home, you help them some more, and her friends and family do too. And she breastfeeds her baby for at least 6 months, and gets to stay home and care for her baby, and her partner gets time too, because they have paid family leave, thanks to your efforts that made it the law. And when she returns to work, her boss encourages her to take breaks, to pump in a clean space required by the law you helped pass. And there's childcare right there, where people understand why breastfeeding matters, because you led the way. On the weekends, her family shops at a local green market you helped set up, where they buy good food that is local, healthy, and affordable, that helps her child run, play, learn, and grow up in a safe community with clean air and good water, until one day, many years from now, she gets her own job with good parental leave and has her own child and breastfeeds her. It takes every one of us to create a culture where breastfeeding is the norm and help a community become healthy right from the start. Beginning with one mother and one baby, we can help achieve health equity everywhere. Each and every one of us can make it possible.
I love that video. It made me cry the first time. Maria, you want to talk about our objectives for this session?
Yes. So hi, everybody. I am Maria Hitt. I'm with the Orange County Partnership for Young Children. And the session today, we've all along been looking at the 10 steps for the Breastfeeding Friendly Childcare designation. And today we're focused specifically on 9 and 10. So number 9 is about coordinating with community breastfeeding support resources and actively referring mothers and families. So the steps to this are that your center has a list of community breastfeeding resources that you can give to families for referrals, that your center does regularly refer families to community breastfeeding resources, and that you track those community referrals and follow up with families as needed. So maybe you have a family that comes in to find out about your center, or they're about to have a baby. You could share a list of resources with them. Maybe they're in there and they're asking, I need a support group for breastfeeding moms. And you could follow up with them and find out, how did that go? Were you able to get through to the Leche League, or did you try that breastfeeding support group that I told you about at the birth center? That kind of thing, so that you're not just handing people information, and not only when people are asking you for it, but you're actually providing it to everybody that might be in need of it, and you're following up with those referrals. So that would be number 9. And number 10 is making sure your staff is all trained. So this is an interesting one. A lot of people are like, what do you mean everybody has to be trained? But the whole idea of creating this culture and this environment of a breastfeeding friendly childcare program is that really everybody's on board, from the infant classroom up to the director, from your kitchen staff. Everybody is supportive of breastfeeding. So if a mom is in the center breastfeeding, she feels welcome and she feels comfortable and safe doing that. And so a really good way to do that is to provide education for all of your staff. And it's required that everybody gets an hour a year. It's for the designation. So we want to be covering protection, promotion, and support. You want to make sure you have up-to-date materials on hand. We're going to talk some more about all of these materials that are available out here, information about human and breast milk feeding. Like I said, 1 hour a year for all the staff. And there's a lot of great resources about that. And I don't know if I think we might have, Natasha, another session on all the different places people can get training. And of course, these learning bursts count as an hour, right? So here you go. And then that resource list, we're going to talk a little bit about figuring out your local resources and providing that resource list to both your staff and the families about, who in the community can help with lactation consultation, with community providers, and just answer people's questions when they arise. So those are what we're going to share today, and those are the two last steps of the 10 steps. So here we go. Thanks.
Well, so I'm Love Anderson. I am a parent in Durham, and I came into this work as a volunteer, and I got really involved with being unhappy as a parent and not getting my needs met, and becoming a volunteer with Leach is where I got my start. And I found that it had some shortcomings in the work I really wanted to do, because I found that there were so many resources. I'm from Durham, in Durham and our surrounding areas, Orange County, Wake County, Chatham County. We had all of these resources, but they weren't coming together. And I got together with another IBCLC here in Durham, and we started a volunteer nonprofit organization where we basically collate resources. And I'm now a community health worker here in Durham County, and my job is basically to talk to childcare providers like you and business owners, and to help you communicate with families all the amazing resources. And specifically, my expertise is in Durham, but I'm also the parent resource coordinator for the North Carolina Breastfeeding Coalition. So I think it's really important as a childcare provider to start with the fundamentals. Do you know the fundamentals of breastfeeding, the benefits of breastfeeding? And so this page, I just took it from Wikipedia. So if you go, and I love Wikipedia because the resources are digital and you can click on them. All these little buttons are clickable. But whatever digital encyclopedia you prefer that's up to date, you can go there and say, if you wanted to look at what are the benefits of breastfeeding, here's benefits of breastfeeding 101. And it's really important that everybody in your childcare center knows some of the basic fundamental benefits of breastfeeding for the parent and for the baby. So when a parent comes to you who's pregnant and you'd say to them, what do you know about infant feeding? And maybe they would say formula or something else. And you'd say, well, have you heard about breastfeeding? And then they might say, well, I haven't really heard that much about breastfeeding. I've heard it's healthier, but I don't know what that means. Well, that means that it can decrease some mortality around those early phases of birth, because it can reduce blood flow after you have the baby. It means that it can increase respiratory function for the baby. It means that if you have diabetes, it actually can, type 1 diabetes, there are lower risks. And what I love is you can click with these research papers, and you don't have to have it memorized. So that's why that's my favorite place to go to start. And so one of the things I also think it's important when we watch that video and you hear everybody talking, we talk about all these designations and all these 10 steps to breastfeeding success. And so this all started with the World Health Organization and UNICEF came together and put together these 10 steps to successful breastfeeding. And over the course of time, it's broken into all of these components. We have breastfeeding success for hospitals. We have breastfeeding success for clinics, for employers. And a lot of you as childcare providers, as directors, are both an employer and a childcare provider. So you may have heard that you can also apply for the North Carolina Breastfeeding Friendly Employer and Community Partner Award. It's really fast and wonderful, as well as there's some local designations for employers. But today we build on all the steps from the childcare designation, which is robust and, I'm not going to lie, tough. And the North Carolina Breastfeeding Coalition, the North Carolina Breastfeeding Friendly Childcare designation is reopening, I heard, in August. Is that right, Natasha? Yeah. As well as we are locally designating that there are some people who are locally designating and offering support in some limited counties. Also, I wanted to make sure that as we talk about these resources, there's some emerging groups of community groups that are looking at bringing all of the parts of the community together to look at resources. So not just childcare or the hospital or the health department, but everyone in the whole community, all the parts, which as a parent, that's what parents are looking for, because we interact with all of these things. And so I already told you that I'm the director of Breastfeed Durham. And in Durham, because we are bigger than just one child care center, we have child care providers and IBCLCs and all these community resources all coming together. We communicate our resource list by putting together a website. And it looks something like this, and parents can type in questions, and we have newsletters and links and resources for if you are a business owner, a childcare provider, a healthcare provider, or if you're a parent, resources for parents. Maria, do you want to talk a little bit about what you all are doing in Orange County?
Yeah,
we stop sharing?
Thanks, Love. And I've also been working with Love and Kathleen Anderson and several other people here in Orange to put together the Breastfeed Orange local coalition. And so we've got folks from the hospital, folks from WIC, health department, Partnership for Children, et cetera. So it's an opportunity for all of us to come together. And I can show you, we have put together a resource list. Here you can see it's a little bit of work in progress right this minute, because we're getting ready to add QR codes to a bunch of the websites. But as a Partnership for Children, I just put this together to help support the centers that I work with who are working toward the designation, since one of the requirements is to have this list of resources. So it includes, our local women's birth center and the health department. It's got clinics, it's got the local ICBLCs that are working right here locally if a woman needs support in that level. It's got the local La Leche leagues. And then it does have a couple of statewide links, like the North Carolina Breastfeeding Coalition, and then the national links of the Office of Women's Health. And so this is just a resource list that we put together here at the partnership to share with folks. And I just went online, and researched and said, okay, who's where and who's got ICBLCs and what's the local La Leche League. And of course, Kathleen had worked very hard to develop the Breastfeed Orange NC website. So I pulled a bunch of stuff off of there and included a link to that. So that's just a quick view of what we've done locally. But I think it's really important for those of us that are TAs, that are working in local partnerships, to reach out, find out who's in our community. A lot of the different communities have, there's the website. Thank you for sharing that, Love. So Kathleen's been working on it, and I think it looks really nice. So we've got a childcare button on there. And I think, I just want to say again to the childcare providers that are in this call and those that are working with childcare programs and family childcare homes, that this is a marketing thing for you. This is a plus for your center to be breastfeeding friendly and to be across your center breastfeeding friendly, and to put that out into the community and let people know you welcome them and also to promote yourself as a business in this way. So there are places like the North Carolina Breastfeeding Coalition where you can be listed. You can apply for that award and you can be listed there as a breastfeeding friendly business, a breastfeeding friendly employer. And as an employer with young women working for you who are women of childbearing age, having spaces for them to breastfeed their baby, for example, or to pump for their baby when they come back to work is a selling point to you getting staff back on board after they've had their babies. So I really like to mention that business aspect of this, that it's more than just healthy moms, healthy babies, which of course is what we're all striving for, but it's also an opportunity for you as a business owner to promote breastfeeding in a positive way and in a positive light, and attract families and teachers to your school who are looking for a place where they can breastfeed and be welcome. So I think that's all I have to say about Breastfeed Orange. Thanks.
And I also, I always like to bring up that ecological model and think about how my focus is always about the breastfeeding family, whether that's a mom and a baby or a grandma, no matter what your family looks like. We always are thinking about supporting the family and thinking about how all of the pieces interact with that, with the whole community. And I always think it's important to think about the cultural implications, right? Racism, cultural norms. What does your community look like? We know that every community in North Carolina is different. And we're going to offer some suggestions today. And I hope you will take them and internalize them and change them and grow them so that it's the right fit for your parents and your culture in your community. So when you're putting together the community resource guide, you want to make sure that you update the list annually and you've got information on there like your WIC office, your international board certified lactation consultants, which are IBCLCs. I've shared some of my favorite resources here. I always love to put something about the milk bank. My favorite thing about them is they provide support for parents who have even lost a child, as well as taking donor milk. And they're just incredibly supportive. And if that's something that's close enough for families in your area, I recommend that you include it in the list. The Womanly Art of Breastfeeding is classic. Lacha's League's book. However, what I don't like about it is the way that they talk about going back to work. I always recommend that making it work NC toolkit for going back to work. And I want to highlight the North Carolina Breastfeeding Coalition. Global Health has amazing videos. And then I already talked about Breastfeed Durham that I have a personal affinity for, as well as the Carolina Global Breastfeeding Institute always has amazing resources, which I think that's where you all go to get childcare information. So again, NCBC, here's the link, which you'll get on your resource sheet, and you can go click on it and you'll get this regional map and you can go to your county. And so this is where I say start here, click on your county. I'm Durham. So I click on the Durham County list and I got that page and I will literally copy and paste it, highlight it, copy and paste it into a Google Doc. And that's where I'd start. And I'd take about 30 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour if I had it to go on and add some of these other links. Like find the link to your local health department, which this URL you're going to get, and you can be able to find the link to your local health department and add in the link to your local WIC office. Take those few minutes and make sure that you find the link to the place that's for your county. You want to make sure that that's on your resource list. And then make sure that you have the links to your hospital and thinking about, do you have any resources to support Spanish-speaking families, other peer-to-peer support groups? Is there support for daytime parents, nighttime meetings as you're putting together those resource lists and adding those in? And I love to share that resource list. I like to do it in Google and I like to email it to a couple other people. Whoever I have in contact, other childcare providers, anybody I know who's had a baby, and say, yo, look at this and add to it and help me grow this so that it becomes something really amazing. Lacha's League has a locator so you can find the local Lacha's League leaders that are for your county. And there's a search for a local IBCLCs, International Board Certified Lactation Consultants, which are the fancy lactation consultants that have gone to school, have the most professional degrees, as well as there's other types of lactation consultants who have LCs or ELCs, other things with L in them, who maybe haven't gone to school as long as IBCLCs. But this is a great thing to know that within a few minutes, you can find the list of all the IBCLCs that serve your local community. I like to add doulas to my page and birth centers. And then if you have a university close by, are there any research projects that are going on in your university that would be supportive of breastfeeding parents? I'm in Durham, and the Carolina Global Breastfeeding Institute is part of Chapel Hill and the School of Women's Health. All of those things are right next door. And parents who are in childcare centers that are on the south side, which is the Chapel Hill side, love to know about those things. Whereas childcare providers that are on kind of the other part of Durham are closer to Wake County, and they like to know about the stuff that's happening in NC State. And if you're at North Durham, it's too far to drive, and you don't put this on your list. So customize it to your center and the needs of your community. And then the other thing that's really great for parents to have information on is kind of the stages of parenting, where you're thinking about when you're pregnant and giving birth, that new baby, and then going back to work. And so you're going to get all of these links. And if you share the slides, each one of these are linkable, where it's what are those questions for birth and the new parent that you might have? What are the signs to look for breastfeeding? And it's great to have these resources. And next time, Natasha's going to talk about how to display them in a really useful way. And we're going to spend some time, once you have this giant stack of resources, what do you do about it? But I think step one is to know that they exist. And then I always think one of the things I like to put on my resource packets is always just the law, that wherever a parent goes, that parent, any place a parent is legally allowed to be, they're allowed to feed their baby. And that means expose any parts of their body that they need to expose in order to feed their baby, that's the law, and they're protected to be able to do that. And I add that to the top of all of my information sheets, because it's so intimidating when you have that new baby and you have to go out into the world, especially as we're reopening, and your baby's crying and figuring out how to do that. And then I love, as I highlighted, the Making It Work toolkit. My favorite part of the Making It Work toolkit is these are beautiful and shiny. You can print them, or you can email them, but they also have support for family members and what family members can do to support breastfeeding. Because I think the number one question I always hear is like, my mother-in-law lives with us and she's not very supportive, or my partner is always wanting to do this thing. And these resources, many of them are offered in Spanish, which is always an area I wish that I had stronger Spanish skills. And I love to be able to offer something in Spanish to my Spanish speaking families, even if I don't have the strongest language skills. And then I love to know that these other resources exist about going back to work, about questions about the Affordable Care Act. What are the benefits of the employees and what are the laws, to have a place where I can go and look for those resources. And tips for challenging work environments. And what I think is most amazing, and the reason I got so passionate about this, is in Arizona, they did some fancy money stuff where they use money that every time that a baby is fed, even a breastfed baby, they're able to recoup funds. And they managed to train every single person in one of their Head Start childcare programs as with a 1-week lactation consultant training. And they found that in that environment where every childcare provider was trained about had some information about lactation, they increased breastfeeding rates by 34%. And that was the moment when I heard this on the conference and I was like, whoa, okay. I mean, I know childcare is important. I know that what you all do is amazing and make or break for my personal breastfeeding journey. But what I did not realize is that it's so make or break for all families. And so I just gave you a lot of information. I'm going to kind of move forward here. So there are all these resources, and we talked to begin with about how you're going to go to NCBC and start, grab all that information and put it into a document, and then you're going to share it with other people in your community to help you grow it. And you're going to add in those resources about the health department, the WIC office, your hospitals, and make sure each one of those pieces are on there. And you're just going to start to grow a document. But maybe in your childcare center, it looks a little different and you're worried about the questions that parents are going to have. So let's take some time and let's break into smaller groups so that we can talk about how to do this, how to make it work in your childcare center. And we're going to be 10 to 15 minutes. And then we're going to come back and we're going to talk in a larger group about some of those questions and address them before we close. Does that sound good? Anybody have anything else to add? All right, let's break into small groups.
For our group, really what we were talking about is that most of the, both the centers had a resource list in their breastfeeding area, but haven't started yet on orientation packets like for the pregnant moms or like a toolkit. So this is where we thought that there would be some good ways to make that work and to get in touch with their local TA.
Awesome. So one of the things that we're ending, we're talking about if you have a program that serves primarily 4-year-olds and up, that they don't want to talk about breastfeeding necessarily, and focusing on making it a staffing issue, that this is about supporting your staff and helping to recruit staff. And I think it was Lynn who said that. And I think that's so brilliant right now, especially in COVID. It's so hard. It's really hard to get childcare center staff. That's what I'm hearing over and over again, and saying like, you can come and we're going to support your breastfeeding journey as an employee, I think is a big draw to bring in more applicants.
Yeah, and also for the 4-year-old classrooms, that's another piece that we haven't really talked about a whole lot, was supporting teachers. Most of the teachers that you're seeing now in elementary schools have their kids, and usually their first child is in the 3 or 4-year-old classroom, and then there's their second baby's on the way. So then the support of breastfeeding materials usually helps your employees and, you know, a lot of your teachers or your moms that's been in that childcare for a long time. One of the things we were talking about in our group is the orientation packets for the new parents, whether it be a teen mom, a second mom that hadn't breastfed the first time, or just doesn't know, because if they're given the tools to know, they really are able to make that decision. There's not as many barriers as they think they are, because, oh, there's all these benefits and supports set up already. So we were talking about orientation packets being super important. And I really would like to follow up with that.
I have a question. Because there are so many types of resources, you know, and today, you know, people don't do a lot of reading now, you know what I mean? They just, you know, they don't want to just have no 4, 5, 6 pages of something. So to have how large or how small or how compact should the resource list be? And, you know, and with the resource list also have like some tips under their particular location or whatever. I don't see what I'm saying. Like for example, the clinic, you know, the WIC, we talked about the WIC, you know, we know about WIC offers, you know, lots of benefits and so forth for new moms. You know, they might have a couple of bullets, about what they offer and the importance of breastfeeding. But what would the other resources have the same information, because you don't want it too lengthy?
I think that's such a good point. I like to just include the link to the website, and whatever I write on my resource form, I do it for me. I like to keep it short enough where I can copy and paste that, and I can text from my computer. I have it, and I will just send a parent a text, you know, where I just put in their phone number, and if they asked about WIC, I send them, you know, the link to the WIC office, maybe the phone number or the name of the person they would contact, and just something short that would fit into that you could text. And I think that's the way a lot of my parents like to communicate. And so, go ahead, Natasha, what do you think?
I was just going to say, for a center, the easiest way to do it, 2 ways, is to have it on your webpage we support breastfeeding. Here's your breastfeeding logo if you're a breastfeeding friendly center, and then have links added in for your parents onto your actual center's webpage, because that's so easy for them to go back to, and you can update those links. That's the easiest way. And all these trainings, we have given you the links so you can just pop those in. The second way is to create it with a binder and just print materials off with like extras behind it in those little plastic sleeves. And that's laid in the breastfeeding area or hung up in a file, so the mom can look at it, and it can be separated out into, here's breastfeeding, here's resources, here's lactation services. Because that way a mom who's sitting there breastfeeding can look through and see, oh, I need help with a pump. WIC helps with pumps, that way they have that little binder. Oh, and I forgot the third way is like, if you're doing orientation packets, whatever you're doing for your new parents to come by and do a tour, one little sheet that says, that's on CBGI's website, the Carolina Global Breastfeeding Institute, says, we support breastfeeding. Our center is a breastfeeding friendly center, and it is in bullet points. It's pretty, you can print it out, and it has in bullet points, this is how we do it in these 10 steps. And that is a perfect orientation that says your center offers breastfeeding support. And then you can add in a few other things. That helpful?
Very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
How do you track with those methods? Because one of the steps is talking about tracking those parent contacts. And so that's one of a lot of the organizations I work with either have an email address or even now have set up a text messaging system so that's trackable. That's for the whole center to be able to use. With your method, how do you document the tracking?
A lot of it's not tracked. And that's a good point, because most of the time it's not. It's tracked generally in the center with what the infant toddler teachers are connecting with, or the 3 to 4 classroom, whatever they're connecting with that parent. There's not really a tracking method, but that's something that you can do if you want, and have them sign in when they've received materials. And I'm not sure if your infant toddler teachers or any of your teachers track what you're giving to the parents, but if you do, that's a good way to do it. It's just to say, these are the materials that we've been giving out to parents.
Okay. Would it be a good idea as a center to just keep track of how many of those you printed out and then see how many are left, so you could answer that question.
Right. Yeah.
I love that idea. One of the things we talked about in our session was training each staff member so they really receive at least 1 hour of on continuing education on breastfeeding. They said that's a lot. And I'm not going to lie. I think that's always a lot, especially when you don't have built-in teacher work days in every program. And I think again of like home childcare programs. Any suggestions on how to make that work in your experience, Natasha?
So for training, yeah, there's lots of great trainings. All of these trainings have been recorded except for 2. We will go back and re-record. So what's nice about that is each one's an hour. So you can pick which one is applicable to your new staff or your current staff and have them watch that as an hour. The second way is Breastfeeding University on the Carolina Global Breastfeeding Institute's website. They have Breastfeeding University, and I can let Jessica speak to that. She is here, and so is Dana, either one of them, and the link is in the chat. There's an hour, they're in half-hour modules. So I think it's 2 hours. Is that right, Jessica? Now
So there are four 30-minute modules.
Yes, and they're each for the childcare teachers. So they're super useful. It's on milk supply and how to apply it and all the different resources that your staff members can use. And those are so easy, they're on demand. And then these trainings will be on demand as well. Is there any others anybody can think about?
People always yell at me because I say the CGBI one is it's not as exciting. I like to do it with a couple friends, do a 3-way call, old school style, and talk to some other teachers about, what do you think the answer is, and have that feedback and make it a discussion. Even this was our suggestion during COVID when people couldn't spend as much time together, or get together in a room with, a couple other people and go through it together. Cause I think it brings up good questions where you're like, how do I do this? Or what would you do with this question?
I think that's great. And that's a great idea for any of the TAs that are on here to offer that to your centers, is maybe some, Zoom or three-way training options. There's one other training option that I forgot about, and that's the infant toddler training through the infant toddler specialist program. And we have, I need to put the link into the chat for that. Does any of the infant toddler specialists on here that can speak to that training? It's free, and it's for your infant toddler staff.
And Natasha, there's also now, if people are using the nutrition and physical activity self-assessment for childcare, if they're participating in Go Knapsack with their TA, or they've got an account with Go Knapsack, they now have trainings that are 30 minutes on all of their topics, and breastfeeding is one of their topics. And one of the things I've been suggesting to folks, and it kind of goes along with what Love was saying, was, those 30-minute trainings, you could organize a staff meeting around those, and you could watch them together as a staff and stop the video and have a discussion and make this, if this is a priority for your center and you want to get all your staff to have an hour and be on the same page, then here's a way that you could do this as a group. You could either use the CGBI trainings or the knapsack trainings, and just, quarterly or something like that, say, okay, this is going to be our breastfeeding education session. We're going to take an hour. We're going to have a meal together or lunch or something, and, on a staff work day, and we're just going to do this module together and have a discussion about it. You don't have to bring in a trainer, so that's another possibility, I think, for getting everybody trained.
Yep.
Wonderful. We're at the end. What's the closing?
Wow, we did really good.
Yeah.
Holy cow. We had a lot of stuff, guys. Oh, well, right there. We got 3 minutes. Does anybody have any questions? Or any follow-up ideas or points?
I was just wondering if Love, do you have all your resources in a big binder, or how do you have that? Is that something you can share, or is it a flyer, or what?
So I stopped. I have Breastfeed Durham website under childcare. If you go in there, we have digital folders made up for everything. And one of them is community resources. And one of them, we have a 40-page document of just all the stuff. And the first page is local things that are local to Durham, and the rest are national stuff. And I just, for childcare centers in Durham, we've actually printed them and put them in a 3-ring binder with little plastic sleeves. And we just say, put it by your pumping space, wherever people pump, so they can just flip through them at needed. And I just encourage, I have a sign on the front of the 3-ring binder that says, like, take a picture with your phone of whatever you need to remember.
So that's something, if we get on your website, we could use the nationwide resources or whatever there, use those. And then I think it's just great to look at what's local to give me more information of what I might be looking for locally in Randolph County. So I just think that would be a nice help. I have something created, but I'm sure it's not as thorough as something that you have done. So it's just,
and don't
trying to steal your idea. What?
Don't recreate the wheel.
Well, that's what I was just trying to steal her idea, or how she was doing it.
So steal her idea, but find your local coalition or breastfeeding hospital, because they probably already have all this stuff created, so you don't end up having to do all that homework.
This is also our moment to say that Shauna has put the evaluation link in the chat. And if you complete the evaluation, you will receive a whole list of all the resources that we've shared today,
and
as well as the PowerPoint. So don't fail to complete your evaluation form. And then Shauna will hook you up with both your certificate for your 1 hour of childcare, never remember with CHCs, and your list of resources.
And that last plug, please join us for our next session. In August, it's going to be, it is on breastfeeding, the breastfeeding room, right? Am I
Yeah.
crazy?
Yeah, you and me, we need to meet and plan that.
Yes, the breastfeeding room, good Lord. We have these trainings every month. And so we have a whole list coming up all the way till November. So just bear with us and come with it, and visit and be a part of these trainings. And if you want to present with us, let us know or offer pictures of your centers. We'd love, thank you. August 10th, Shauna, you're wonderful. August 10th from 1 to 2. We will be talking about breastfeeding friendly spaces, whether it's infant toddler rooms, breastfeeding rooms, or family childcare home rooms as well. So it's going to be fun. Any last thoughts?
I'm going to put my email address. If anybody has any more questions, feel free to email me.
Yeah.
Yeah, Natasha, and I just wanted
Thanks,
to clarify for the training for the breastfeeding friendly childcare designation for the application for staff that needs to be trained. That list I put in the chat. It's all infant and toddler teachers and long-term substitutes. At least one teacher from 3 to 5 class, director, operator, and food service coordinator. So it's not every single staff member, but it is a good number of them, and there's the list there.
And also, if you have staff that transition, that move from place to place, like some centers do, they'll, next year they'll change their 4-year-old classroom, 4-year-old teacher and put them in the infant toddler teacher. If you do that and rotate your staff, you want the whole staff trained. Otherwise, it would be the list. Wow, thanks, guys. This has been wonderful. Thank you, Love. Thank you, Maria. Thank you to all of our team and everybody that joined us. And I guess we'll see you all August 10th.